What is directing Cosi like? Directing Cosi, well, I think it's heaven. And one of my favorite things about the opera is its complexity and its ambiguity, and the fact that everything isn't perfectly spelled out on the surface, on the face value of the text, and that there's so much more to it in the subtext and in the music. And because of the ambiguity of the opera, it's challenging to direct because it could go in several different directions. That said, it's also exciting because if you have a great cast, then their points of view and their thoughts on the character and their ways of doing things can also influence the performance that we see. This is a very fun cast to work with. We've only had one day of rehearsal thus far, but we have already been having a very good time, and there's a natural chemistry amongst the cast, both between the two sisters and between the two men, the Ferrando and the Guglielmo, are friends in real life, the singers who are playing them, and you can see that sort of start to translate on the stage. And really also with Angela as Dorabella and Lauren as Fiordaligi, they already have this natural chemistry that they're able to play with each other and play off of each other very well. Of course, we have Bob Orth as Don Alfonso and Christine Brandis as Despina, and they're both amazing performers. I've worked with them both before, and I think they're perfect for their parts. So I can't wait to get more in depth with them and work with them and everything. One of the good things about this cast, I think, is that everybody has a great sense of humor. And everybody, even though many of them have done their roles before, are very open to trying new things or seeing things from another perspective as well. So the cast is great. We're going to have a wonderful time. So this production is by Jim Robinson and a wonderful design team of Alan Moyer and David Woolard and Dwayne Schuler. And it's influenced by certain films, and it takes place in the 1950s in post-war Italy. So if you think about films that work with that, maybe Roman Holiday or the Fellini films, especially La Dolce Vita, really this opera starts from a place of innocence. So the production has a definite feeling about that post-war, optimistic, fresh and clean time in Italy right after the war, but it also gives a nod to the time that Cosi was written in and written for. The clothes reflect that time period, and the set starts out in this sort of perfect little jewel box set, and the girls and their little world that they live in constantly reflects back in on them, and they live in this little box, and you'll see that things happen to the box when the girls decide to go on their adventure in the second act. Another important thing about this production is that it really plays up the subtitle of the opera, which is La Scuola degli Amanti, which means the school for lovers. So because this opera has so many, as you would call them, teachable moments, we see those moments manifested in the frame of this School for Lovers subtitle of the opera, and the production definitely pays a nod to that as well. If you listen to the music at the end of Così fan tutte, in the text they're talking about how if you keep a sense of humor about the happenings and events and don't fool yourself about the state of your relationship, you'll find calm in a crazy messed up world. But if you listen to the music that's underneath that text, it sounds like anything but calmness. So a lot of times in this opera, the ending and who ends up with whom isn't necessarily what you would expect if you were just reading the words of the opera on the page. So a lot of how our production ends will have to do with what has happened with the cast and between the characters building up to that. I have a pretty good sense of where I think that's going to go, but of course I need the cast's input a little bit as well as to how everything will play out with the end of the opera. I love Portland. I've worked here at Portland Opera as a guest assistant director several times, and I liked Portland so much that I moved here. So I love Portland, and I'm so glad to get to contribute to their art scene for once. It's been several years since I've worked here, and I'm really delighted to have the opportunity to work with Portland Opera. It's working at home. Portland is home, and I feel like my work here is a gift to my adopted hometown.